I'm not afraid of anything. Okay, well then what's your answer? You're too busy? Too busy for the most important part of life? I've never in my life heard of a last final words of someone on their dying bed saying, I wish I'd done more deals, made more money, bought more crypto. No way. You know what they almost always say? I wish I'd spent more time with the most valuable people in my life.
Welcome to the Man Maker Show. This is where weak excuses die and men of all ages are held accountable to rise stronger, bolder, and fearless. Grit, ambition, and authenticity are not optional. They are the price you pay to become the man you are meant to be. If you are ready to face the fire, take charge, and own your future, then your journey starts here. And now your host, Brad Wolgamott.
Welcome back to the Man Maker Show. B-Rad coming to you once again. I hope you're doing awesome wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're getting some value out of this. I feel like I am. You know, the great thing about teaching is not people receiving it, but it's the man you become by the responsibility of preparing to share an important message. And I try to communicate something every single week. So it's not that I'm trying to think of something to talk about. I have such a backlog of topics. It's ridiculous. But there's a lot to cover, and you can't just, talk. You got to have some study and some research, and you need to have a little content of value and think about it and pray about it. So it forces me into a place where I get to become a better man, and that is a great value to me. I hope you feel the same way. Welcome to my room. This is my room of excellence, where I've got obviously Michael Jordan over here. I got three Masters champions, signed flag and golf ball, and Tiger and Jack and Gary, and a variety of championship awards that I've won with my baseball teams and accomplishments in life. I got my golf championship here. I'm on with my dad. Not that you really care about all that, but when I get into this room, man, I'm energized. I feel like a man on a mission. I feel like a man that's been on a mission for 5 decades, reaching out to people, trying to be a better man. The Man Maker Show is designed to help you be a better man. It's not about me just being a better man, although I hope I am becoming a better man. But my God, it's really about somehow taking what's in my heart and my brain and throwing it out across the airwaves there around the world, wherever you happen to be listening, and get some value. And it helps change you, right? We've got a lot of listeners in Europe, South Africa, and Australia, New Zealand, all over America, Canada, Europe. It's been exciting to see how many people around the world are tuning in because they're getting some value. We're going to talk tonight about your Palm 6. And your Palm 6 really is it's the last act of servitude. It's the second group of people that you will have closest in your life. These are the people that will be your pallbearers, right? They will be the ones that carry you to your final resting place. Last week we talked about your critical 3, and I think these 3 got to be on one side of the casket for sure. And those 3 are what we would call your faithful wounder, right? It's that man in your life that just gives it to you straight through love, through kindness, but will pull you aside and say, bro, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Where are you going? You're better than that. Here's the truth about you. Here's what I see. Here's what you're doing. It doesn't make sense. Let's be better. And constantly speak to your identity, challenging you to raise your own personal standards. And then you've got your second person. We call them your vault, or your confidant would be another word for it. And this is a person that knows your pains, your struggles, your failures. They're the person that you sit down with, that you say, this is my struggle. This is my challenge. I need some help here. And you trust them, and you can rely on them, and you can bare your soul, and you know it's staying in that room. That's a hard one to find, right? I don't have that person in my life, and I've been around a few years, but I've trusted a few people like that and been heavily burned, so I'm a little bit tainted by that. If any of you are like, oh, I don't confidant, what, vault, no. You know what? You got to keep working for it, and you got to keep asking God for it. And I've been asking for these 3 people in my life for a long time. The third one is your ride or die bro, right? And I believe I've got a few of these, but at the same time, I don't know if I have enough time with them yet. You know, ride or die. You got to go through some rides where you nearly died to really be able to call someone that person. Although there are some people in my life currently that I think would be there if the fit hit the shan and I crashed and burned, I think they'd be there. But I thought I had them before, and when my life blew up, man, it was like rats off a sinking ship. Away they went. So you know, I understand about being damaged. I understand a little bit about being cautious because so am I. But at the same time, do you really want to go to your grave with not having those six dudes that's going to carry your casket? Do you not want to have those six bros that you're tight with? That first group, man, it takes decades to build. Hopefully it goes faster, but typically it takes a whole lot of crap and see how they handle it before you know you really got one. So that's going to take some time. But if you don't start, it's never going to happen for you. So your Palm 6, it's about those that you've allowed to walk alongside the closest to you in life. I mean, they've been in there, right? And a lot of those people are going to be in that first list. But I want to expand it out because this might be a cousin. This might be an elderly person that you've done life with, you know, a mentor through church or a mentor through AA or some kind of an organization. It needs to be someone that their character reflects what matters most to you, right? You need to be like them, right? And the third thing is you need to know that they will honor your legacy in death. Now, those are big definitions, but I don't take it lightly who these men are going to be in my life. And I would encourage you. I don't care if you're 18 or 81. It's never too late to define these men, to get yourself to a place where you can attract those kind of men that want to be part of, because part of your life. Because I don't think you're going to have some of your life like of this character until you are that person of character, and that's going to take some work. But that's why we do the show. That's why we're in, week out, continue to pound on the theme of excellence, integrity, hard work, grace, resilience, the things that make you keep going when most people say, you know, declare bankruptcy, get divorced, have another beer. The guys that don't call you out to be your best when you're at your worst. So I think there's 6 qualifications. At least I've defined them, and as I've researched this, I feel like there's 6 things that I would look for, and I'm looking for, and I would encourage you to look for, and maybe write them down and think about this, right? Because this group is, well, let me just put it this way. They're the next generation once you're gone. They're the ones that carry your legacy. They're the ones that carry your message. They're the final walk of your silent sermon, I've heard it said once. It's a heavy thought, right? Because your last sermon's silent. And maybe you don't like the word sermon because I don't know where you stand in faith, but it's the last time your life's going to say anything is what comes out of these men's mouths. They could be your children. Wouldn't that be cool? But they were the ones that will inspire other people to live out the legacy, the message of your life, right? We would hope that these people will challenge people around you to finish well, to live well, to call upon your mantle. I have a couple friends in my life that are gone and been gone for a long time, and they still carry a tone in my life. My dearest friend Joe McGee, my dearest friend Patrick Finley, my dearest friend Greg Sweet, just to name a few of people that have come and gone. We've buried them. It's a heartbreak, but I still carry them in my heart. I still carry characteristics of their life. I'm still walking around delivering their water, carrying their message. And I would hope that as you define these 6 people, that they will be people that you know will handle that, will represent that. I also think they need to embody your core values, right? They need to have the same kind of walk. They don't need to be the same style, same kind of swagger, same kind of energy, but the same value system, right? They need to understand where you walk with God. They need to know where you walk in terms of in the heat of the battle. What's it like to stand up and realize you might die, but I'm taking this battle on. They have the same work ethic, the same kind of grace, the same kind of love, the same kind of commitment to core values of integrity and character. As you're developing this group, I want you to be thinking, well, what's my character? What's my integrity? What's my commitment? What core values do I carry? And if you go back and look at some of the past episodes, we've walked through a lot of that material. If you can't find them, I'm sure I'll revisit over time. But I think if you were to say there are 5 things that define my life, you could come up with those 5 things. And so as you're defining this group, you've got this first qualification is that they recognize that they're going to carry the message of your life. The second one is that they match your character, right? They have the same integrity. The third thing is they represent your life's influence. Now this is huge, right? They say an artist isn't famous until he dies. And sometimes that's the case with musicians. They get more famous after they're gone. But I believe that these men are your final statement to the world, right? They're the ones. I mean, how many people died and like, well, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, let's go celebrate life, and they don't do anything. These are the men that have invested into your life, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But what we're looking for is to define people that will represent your life's vision, your life's influence. And I think of the choices that I make today that came from Joe, that came from Pat, that came from Greg. Their final statement, I believe, is the actions I take. My mom and my dad had huge influence on me. My dad was an incredibly hard worker. He was a hard man. He was a hard worker. And I got my work ethic from that. My mom was a lover. I carry the mantle of love. At least I think I do. I try to. Some people say I don't, but I believe I'm a lover of people. I like friends, even though I've had a hard time with friends. I don't know. It's part of my deal. But the fourth category we're looking for is we're to find these people that are going to carry our casket to its final resting place, is they carry your legacy, right? They're the ones that are going to work it out. They're the ones that's entrusted with your memories. They're entrusted with your pains and your victories. They're the ones that will sit around a fire, and when your name comes up, say, man, we're better men because that guy lived. I remember when he said this. I remember when he taught me this. I remember when we were at an event and I learned this. I want to encourage you that when you're in an opportunity to share something valuable, you're not talking about beer, girls, and race cars. And those may be conversations here and there, but for the most part, what I'm talking about is that you recognize that opportunities to get together are opportunities to get better. I love this about my pastor because we spend a fair amount of time together, but I love how, and I don't think he forces it. I think this is a natural thing, but almost every time our conversations seem to roll back to our walk with God and how Jesus did this and Jesus did that, and Bible history and the history of the Israelites. And his depth is so massive that I get enriched just by sitting around having a hot dog, right? Just sitting around the campfire with his kids making s'mores, or sitting on the table and dinner's over and we just get chatting. I hope that you're that person. Now, there is an annoying level of that to be cautious with, because some people just talk. You want to be a better listener than talker. But once you've got the listening part taken care of, then I want to challenge you to become a talker and look for those persons. And so as you're generating this group, your Palm 6, be thinking about who would tell my story. And be thinking about what value are you adding yourself now so that you've got a story for them to tell. Are they just going to talk about how rowdy you were and your car crashes and your parties and how many times you threw up and your ex-girlfriends, or are they going to talk about integral parts of your life? So that's how I would define them. And I think when I'm looking at my qualifications, right, when I'm really digging in, I'm thinking, okay, they got to be loyal over time. And this is a hard one, a real hard one, because people come and go. People move. People show up for a while and then they're gone, or they go through life changes and they're here and they're there. And I get it. But I hope that in our busy world, that even when people move or change, that you find a way to stay in touch and keep grinding, right? Because these are the people Over time, they've walked with you through your goods and your bads and your uglies. You talked about this a second ago, but they're not just friends of convenience. They're friends of covenant. In other words, well, I don't know about you, but most of my life, my friends were my neighbors. My friends were my coworkers. My friends were my business partners. When I moved, they weren't that good of friends anymore. When I changed jobs, I hardly stayed in touch with them. I can remember graduating from school and thinking, man, we're bros for life. And you go to different colleges or no college at all, and you hardly even see them anymore. You go to a job and you work there 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, best friends. Oh my God, I love you so much. You change jobs, boom. You move, boom. What happened? It takes time. But a friend of covenant is someone that continues to track you down and keeps that friendship going, makes the effort to come see you, remembers your birthday, your kids' birthdays. These are people that have the same character about the fight. And what I mean by that is, and maybe I'm a little bit wounded in this, so I'll just be honest with you, but most people run, a few stay. These are the guys that stay. These are the guys that will be with you when you're in a major storm and the verdict is up in the air, right? There's this opinion and that opinion. They are rocked in with you like, you tell me what the deal is, and I'm in. Right? As long as you're not violating man's laws or God's laws, I'm not going to do something criminal, crazy. I'm not talking about gangster level. I'm talking about man-to-man character level, a disagreement, an argument, and there's 2 or 3 sides of the story about how it went down, and this person's opinion, that opinion. I'm talking about the guy that stands with you, not the guy that stood with you. The guy that stands with you. When everything goes nutty, do they lean in and say, I got you, bro? Or do they go, do, 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 and they begin to dig out? The third qualification I would put on my top 3 tracking list, and I got your definitions that I talked about earlier. The qualifications are a little heavier, and that these are people that actually invested in you. Now, I did a talk a while back. It was called Consumers and Contributors, and I think that there are 2 types of people in our world. Maybe there's 3, but I broke people into 2 categories, and those are the people that contribute to your life, and there are those that consume from your life. And I had a lot of friends that were great consumers, and I thought we were bros. But when I went through failure, they were gone. And I sound like I'm judging them. I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that I made such a massive investment into them and they couldn't reciprocate. I know I failed. I know I screwed up. I know I went through times, but what they're saying is I am a screw up, not that I screwed up. Right? There's a difference between an adjective and a definition. There's a difference between something that I did and something that I am. The character of identity as compared to the character of an event. We all are going to make mistakes, and I made some big ones, and it cost me friendships that like at a super high painful level. But what we're looking for is people that have invested into you, not just consumed. If you're wealthy, if you've got some money, you know what I mean, because there's people that are around you simply because you are the party. You got the do-re-mi. You got the swagger. You pull the girls. You have the fun. You got the boat, the cars, the house. Everybody likes to be with you because you got the dough. I remember when I had the airplane, man, everybody wanted to be a bro because they all want to go up in the plane. All right, here we go. Common. And again, I am working every day to get to my own personal bitterness. I really believe I'm at a great place in that. But what I'm talking about is are there people in your life that are actually investing? Do they call you? They say, how's your soul? How's your heart? How you doing with that? Where are you at? What are you thinking? I'll be honest with you. Not many people do that. If I never sent a text, I would probably get less than 5 texts a day. Not saying it's bad, but it probably means I've done a crappy job of building deep friends. So let's change that. And I would say maybe the last qualification that I put on there is that they can stand strong in grief. We're all going to die. Someone's going to carry your casket. But what are they going to carry when they drop the casket? Where are they going with you when you're no longer around? What mantle will they carry when they put down your casket? What will they pick up? Will they celebrate your life? We are all going to die. No one's getting out of this deal alive. It's either sooner or later. Hopefully much, much later, but for a lot of people, it's sooner. I know a lot of people have died in 30s and 40s and 50s. A lot. It happens, and it happens way before we ever think it will, and it's a shame, and it's heartbreaking. But it's going to happen. What you want is some dudes around you that are going to celebrate your life. They're going to carry your mantle. They're going to walk with you in a proud position of, that was my friend. I still miss him, but I'm a better man because of what he poured into my life. They're going to carry your mantle of whatever your mantle. I hope I don't hope, I know my mantle. My mantle is grace, Jesus, my family, hard work, integrity, have a blast, be a bro, be loyal, outwork the field, get up early, stay late, even though I don't get up early that often. But for 25 years, I was the first to arrive in the office, turn the key, flip the lights on, first one there, last one leave. That's how I won. Lived on 4 to 5 hours sleep for probably a decade. I'm not afraid of that. I'm glad I did it, but I don't want to do it anymore. So, in conclusion, in a relatively short message tonight, I guess I would ask you, who carried you when you couldn't carry yourself? When you went through your deepest time, and maybe you're in it right now, who's there for you? Who's reaching out for you? Who sends a, hey bro message, how you doing, man? Do we need to get together? I went down and visited a friend in prison a couple days ago down in California, and it was a difficult trip, long ways to go for a 3-hour visit, fly home, and then I had a big message to deliver on Sunday. I didn't have the time, but it was the only time that the prison would give me to come see him, and I'm glad I did. But who carried you when you couldn't carry yourself? And my deepest times and moments, there were a few people that were there for me that would reach out and say, how you doing? I think another part of that is, who do you trust with your reputation? When you're gone, are they going to tell the story in a positive, encouraging way? Or are they going to find that now is the opportunity to discourage people, to tell your stuff? Or can you trust them with your story? Can you trust them with your reputation? This is a powerful thing, and I wish there was a way we could test people on this. I wish there was a way that we could go out there and interview people and have some tricky ways to find out, but we don't. We don't have it. Oftentimes we just say, it's not that important. But I will promise you the richest life is a life full of deep friends. And I know that most wealthy people have very few friends because they've been burned and there's been a lot of leeches and consumers around them. So trust is low, but it ain't too late to dig in with a couple people. So the question is, are you willing to invest into relationships, or are you just waiting for people to come into you? I believe you're going to have to get across the 50-yard line for someone and go way past halfway and make that investment. I would let these characteristics shape your daily life, to shape the choices of your time. Guys, sometimes we are so busy, we're too busy to do these things, and I think that means you're just too damn busy. I think you're missing out. And I know this because I'm old enough to know I should have these boxes checked, and I don't. And it's because I was so busy chasing money, I wasn't going deep in developing relationships. So what I'm saying is, maybe you got to create some new priorities. Maybe you just got to shift a few things. Carve some time out for some people, right? I mean, it is no problem booking our calendar. If you're a winner, if you're a go-getter, and you've got businesses and employees and projects and ministries and things going on. I was on the phone the other day with a guy that I've known for a number of years. I helped pay for a lot of his education. I was with him through a loss of a very close relative. He's now gone out to do quite well and become relatively successful and rather famous, actually. And I asked him to help me on a project, on something I'm working on, similar to the show. And his answer was, Brad, I'm just too busy. And I'm going to be honest with you, that stung a bit, but I could see myself in the mirror. Because there are a lot of times in my life I was just too busy to stop and pause and help someone that's helped me. And I hope this guy figures out. In fact, I hope he even hears this message someday and he realizes that if you're too busy to help a brother that's invested in you, you're too damn busy. And you've lost your way. I get it. I'm not judging, but I would encourage you to reshape some of your priorities. Because if all you're going to do is go out there and jam on your business and jam on your goals and build your empire, you're going to find yourself very lonely. Your best friend will be a bottle, right? Your best friend will be someone you work with versus your kids, your spouse, or someone externally that you've taken the time to let in, to have quality conversations, to dig in and let them know. Take that chance. You're tough enough to take betrayal. You're tough enough to take abandonment. Now, those are big statements because I don't like betrayal. I don't like abandonment. It hurts like a mother. However, I'm big enough to handle the pain. So why am I afraid to go deep in that effort? What I'm not afraid of anything. Okay, well then what's your answer? You're too busy? Too busy for the most important part of life? I've never in my life heard of a last final words of someone on their dying bed saying, I wish I'd done more deals, made more money, bought more crypto. No way. You know what they almost always say? I wish I'd spent more time with the most valuable people in my life. So if an 80, 90-year-old person says that, then why in the world are we not heeding that advice? It only makes sense to me that when someone that's lived 8, 9 decades, why wouldn't we take the words of that? That's it. And there are books galore written about it. There's a lot of pastors that have written books, and I've read many different angles of this, and they say that being a pastor is a very difficult job. You experience everybody's worst day and best day. You celebrate births and weddings, and you unfortunately have to be the officiant of funerals and go marriage counsel and betrayal. It's horrible. They have oftentimes said the big issue is dealing with people in their final moments of life, and the pastor gets called in to help them in their final moments. And maybe it's to lead them to the Lord, or maybe it's just to bring them peace. He says there are two types of people. There are those that are ready to go, and there are those that are not. And those that are ready to go seem to have a peace about them. They finished their business. They've had their statements. I was talking to a gentleman just a few weeks ago, maybe a week ago. I would say an older guy, but not really older, maybe late 60s, early 70s, some in that ballpark, quite wealthy. And he has I guess some people call it a fatal disease. I refuse to call it that, but he has something that he has been told will probably ultimately take his life. When, I don't know, but he's already on borrowed time, he says. And he says, be honest with you, Brad, I'm ready to go. Now, the people around me may not be ready for me to go, but I'm ready. I know my Lord. I know the afterlife. I know those people waiting for me, and I can't wait to be there with them. Until I go there, I'm going to do everything I can to make this life amazing and awesome. But he has a peace about him. And because of that peace, he'll probably live longer because he's not in this constant dread. But on the other side of that conversation, the people are not ready to go. And you know why they're not ready to go? They haven't made peace. They haven't made peace with their kids. They haven't made peace with their parents. They haven't made peace with their friends. They're looking at their life going, I didn't do anything. I kept waiting to someday I'll go deeper. Someday I'll have more time. Someday I'll do that. And all of a sudden, someday's over. And I'm not ready. A dear friend of mine passed away just half a dozen months ago. Maybe it's December, January. Wasn't that long ago. And he was so sad because he was dying slowly from a really rare disease that was consuming his body. And ultimately, he took his last breath. And he was so sad and mad. He goes, I got ripped off. I lived a good life. I made good choices. I raised a family. I worked hard. All my buddies are out fishing and retiring and traveling and going on cruises. And I'm dying. It's not fair. And all I could do was sit there and say, you're right. I'm sorry. I wish it was different. Can we have a great conversation? He had to go visit him every Tuesday and have these quality conversations talking about his life. And heartbreaking. So when I experience things like that, in fact, there's a book called Tuesdays with Morrie. If you haven't read Tuesdays with Morrie, fantastic book about a guy that goes and sits down every Tuesday with a guy named Morrie, and they talk about life and the lessons he learned. So I want to challenge you. Get your 6. Go back and listen to this message again. Write them down. Make it priority list. Put it in your wall. Put it in your money clip. Put it in the cover of your phone. Put it somewhere so you can start carving out time to build these relationships. Your empire will be there waiting for you. But friends, we just don't know when the time is. And I'm not trying to speak to any form of fear. It's common sense to me. Not to mention, as I've aged in life, I mean, the most important thing to me is not more money, it's more friends, more people that I can pour into. Next week, I'm going to talk about your 12 apostles, the 12 people you pour into. And I can't wait to dive into that subject with you. I hope you take the time to dig in with your Palm 6 and your Critical 3. This is big stuff. Super important. I love you. I want you to win. I want you to be a great man, and I want you to be a man maker. I love you. God bless. Bradley Wolgamott, out.